and Nicholas Clappen from HM Customs, and Mr. Tae-kon, who's also come over from the Korean mission in Brussels, from the Korean Customs side. I take it that the British are speaking first, is that correct? Right, over to the British side. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be here this morning to talk to you about the customs requirements of the important EU-Korea agreement. Firstly, a quick recap. We've already heard that the agreement entered into force on the 1st of July 2011, and it provides major new market opportunities for EU and South Korean exporters. So what does it mean for customs requirements? Well, it would probably not surprise you to hear that the availability of a reduced or nil preferential rate of customs duty is, under the agreement, subject to certain conditions which concern documentation, transport and origin. Documentation. Claims to a preferential rate of duty in South Korea and the EU must be supported by an original declaration, inserted by the exporter on invoice or other commercial documents. That declaration should read, the exporter of the product covered by this document, and then in brackets, if they're an approved exporter, the customs authorization number, declares that, except where otherwise clearly indicated, these products are of EU-Korean preferential origin, and then the place and date of where that actual declaration is made, and the signature of the exporter, in addition to the name of the person signing the declaration, has to be indicated in a clear script. Any exporter in the EU or Korea can issue an invoice and origin declaration where the value of the consignment is no more than €6,000 or £5,700 sterling. Approved exporters in the EU or Korea can issue origin declarations for consignments with a value in excess of the £5,700 limit. Direct transport. Goods should normally be transported directly between EU and Korea and vice versa. However, transport through intermediate countries, say for geographical or transport reasons, is acceptable if goods remain under customs control in the country of transit storage and only undergo processes such as unloading, reloading and operations designed to keep them in good condition, i.e. they do not undergo any operations which could make them lose their EU or Korean preferential origin. The origin rules. Most importantly, goods must meet the appropriate rules of origin. There are around 300 product-specific rules in the agreement which vary according to the product concerned and are based on the first 4 digits of the commodity code of the product concerned. However, the rules can essentially be broken down into 4 types: wholly produced, change of tariff heading, process, and percentage. And here are some of the examples. For wholly obtained. Fruit and vegetables grown and harvested in the EU or Korea. For a change of tariff heading, wood in Tariff Chapter 4403 can be imported to produce a table in Chapter 9403. Process. A T-shirt in heading 6109, the yarn can be imported, but it must be knitted into cloth and made up into a finished garment. And percentage. A watch in Chapter 91. Materials, components and parts can be imported, but their total value must not be any more than 40% of the ex-works price or the factory gate price of the watch. Come on to now responsibilities. And the rules of origin and accompanying documentary requirements impose certain responsibilities and obligations on operators. Firstly, we will have a look at the responsibilities of EU importers. 1. Ensuring compliance with the rules of origin. Before claiming a preferential rate of customs duty on the import declaration, check that the products concerned reflect the appropriate rules of origin. Advise your supplier of the rule covering the goods and ask him to confirm in writing that it has been met. And then check the authenticity of the approved exporter number included in the body of the origin declaration via the facility on the Korean Customs website. And the actual website address is in the handout that has been given. It's rather long to actually read out to you. Section 2 of HMRC Notice 826, Tariff Preference, Imports, tells you more about how you can ensure that your goods meet those rules. And you will be liable for the full rate of customs duty payable if post-clearance checks establish that your goods did not qualify for the preference claim or that you were not in possession of a valid origin declaration. Point 2. Holding the necessary proof of origin. You must hold a valid origin declaration issued by your Korean supplier for presentation to HMRC if necessary at the time you or your shipping agent, freight forwarder, makes the claim to the preferential rate of duty on the customs import declaration. If you do not hold the declaration at the time the declaration is made and the goods are released from customs control, you will have to provide security for the full rate of customs duty payable, pending receipt and presentation of the document to HMRC. Holding evidence of compliance with the direct transport rule. You must hold for presentation to HMRC, if necessary, documents to support compliance with the direct transport rule. They can take the form of transport documents, such as bills of lading, showing that the goods were transported between South Korea and the EU. These documents must cover all legs of the journey, particularly where consignments are consolidated into larger containers en route. A certificate of non-manipulation issued by the customs authorities in the country of transit or storage, and any other documentation which clearly shows that the goods which have arrived in the EU are the same as those which left South Korea. We'll now move on to the responsibilities of the EU exporters. Again, 1. Providing origin declarations. You will have to provide to your Korean customer with an origin declaration in the prescribed format. If you only export goods in consignments with a value of less than €6,000 or £5,700 sterling, you do not have to become an approved exporter. However, you will have to be approved by HMRC to issue origin declarations for consignments with a value of more than €6,000. So, how can you become an approved exporter? You must complete the Form C1454, which is available for downloading and completion from the HMRC website. And then you will need to establish and insert in the form the commodity code for the goods you are exporting to Korea under preference. Find and insert in the form the product-specific origin rule for the product. This can be found in HMRC Notice 828 or in the guide to the FTA, which we have published on our website. You will also have to explain in box 8 of the form how the goods met the rules. i.e. because they were wholly obtained in the EU and no imported, non-originating materials were used. Imported materials changed tariff heading during the manufacturing process, or imported materials were used, but their value was no more than that X% of the ex-works price of the finished product. And you must confirm that you hold the supplier's declarations if you are not the actual manufacturer of the goods concerned. Holding documentary evidence to support the preferential origin of your goods, you must hold and retain for 3 years documentary evidence to support the origin of the goods which you have exported to Korea under preferential origin declarations. This can take the form, for example, commercial documents, records providing details of the processes undertaken, and the origin and value of the materials used. You will need to hold the supplier's declarations. If you are not the manufacturer of the goods you are exporting to Korea under cover of origin declarations, you must obtain and retain for 3 years declarations from your supplier in respect to the preferential origin of your goods. Section 8 of HMRC's Notice 827, EU Preferences, Export Procedures, tells you more about suppliers' declarations and when they are required. So that was just a quick run-through of the obligations and requirements. Further information can be found in a guide to EU's new reciprocal preferential trade agreement with South Korea and Customs Information Papers, or SIPs, numbers 1115, 1150, 1160, 1167, 1176 and 1183. The SIPs and our notices 826, 827 and 828 can be found and downloaded on the HMRC website at www.hmrc.gov.uk. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Yvette. Well, now you all know how to do it. There will be a chance to raise questions later, both formally and over coffee and over lunch. Thank you for sticking to your time perfectly. That allows time for our Korean customs specialist, Mr. Tae-kon, who has come over from Brussels to give his side of the story. Thank you.
Good morning. Hello. I am Tae-kon, Counsel for Customs Affairs. Now I will explain important export clearance procedures of Korea Customs under Korea UKTI. Contents are composed of several parts. First, pictures of clearance procedures under Korea UKTI. First, the introduction of a self-certification system. Approved exporters designated by Korea Customs issue certificate of origin, namely CO. However, for goods under the value of 6,000 euros, companies can issue COs their own, even though they are not designated as an approved exporter. And as you know, the invoice declaration is okay. Second, the simplification of application procedure for preferential tariff treatment. In case where importing companies apply for preferential tariff treatment, COs shall submitted only when required by customs. CO submission is not required when importing small packages or hand-carried goods or passengers up to the value of US dollar 1,000. If preferential tariff treatment is not applied at the time of import declaration made, post application shall be allowed for 1 year from the accepted declaration by Korea Customs. Third, adaptation of indirect and joint verification. In principle, Customs Authority of importing country requests for origin verification to Customs Authority of the exporting country. However, customs officials of the importing country can be present as an observer during the course of origin verification with the prior approval of Customs Authority of the exporting country. Fourth, simplification of import and export procedures. Expedited release of goods, enhanced the transparency of customs administration, introduction of advanced ruling in tariff classification and origin, review and appeal, confidentiality of information, restriction on concession charging in relation to import and export, enlarged the customs cooperation. Two, origin criterion. First, the wholly obtained criterion. That is, wholly obtained or produced goods within the territory of the party, animal plants, mineral goods, and sea fishing goods obtained by vessels of the party. Second, the substantial transformation criterion. If some of materials for goods are obtained without the territory of the parties, this criterion will be complied. There are three methods or rules in this criterion. First, the change in tariff classification method. HS code of non-originating materials and products should be changed. Second is a value-added rule. Non-originating materials should be used up to a certain percentage. In this way, export price is the price of the goods. And the third is a specific processing or technical test method. The origin is certified when undergoing typical production processes, including chemical reaction, purification, and blending. Next, supporting criteria. De minimis. Goods shall be considered as originating if the value of or non-originating materials used in the production does not exceed 10% of the actual price of the goods. Accumulation. Originating materials from the territory of a party are incorporated in the production of the goods in the territory of the other party shall be considered to originate in the territory of the other party. And the sets. The set as a whole shall be regarded as originating, provided that the value of non-originating products does not exceed 15% of the actual price of the set. And neutral elements. Goods which do not enter into and which are not intended to enter into the final composition of the product, including fuel, tools, and equipment, are not considered in origin determination. And last, direct transport is a principle, but a good shall be considered as originating if the goods undergo unloading and reloading or any operation required to keep it in good condition in a third party or are under the control of Customs Authority. Three, approved exporter. This is very important part of the export. In Korea, we will manage the approved exporter by two tracks. One is company, the other is product. Company level will be needed the 5 criterion for certification criteria. 1, possessing origin management system or capable of proving country of origin. 2, preparing and managing a list of COs and designating a person in charge of the CO management. And 3, no rejection of origin verification for the past 2 years. 4, compliance with the record keeping requirement on export for the past 5 years. And 5, issues with no fraud for the past 2 years. If getting the authorization, origin declaration can be made for every exporting goods after certification. Next, the product level will be needed two criteria. First, exporting goods qualifying rules of origin. Second is same with that. Origin declaration can be made for certain goods after certification. Next, document to be submitted. Company specific application form. Two, cost and production statement of the major goods exported or produced by the exporter. And three, supplies declaration. This is when the exporter is different from the manufacturer. And four, other supporting document to prove contents provided in cost and production statement. This is upon request of customs. And the product specific. First is application form, same with the left. And two, cost and production statement based on tab subheading of the goods subject to items. And 3 and 4 are same with the left. Next, the certification procedure. One, when exporter qualified the criterion, customs should issue the certificate within 20 days from the application date. And the validity period is for 3 years and can be extended for 3 more years. Product specific is first is the same with the left, and two, the validity period is for 2 years and can be extended for 2 more years. Next is revocation of criterion, company specific. If 1 and 2 criterion will not meet the certification criterion, as I said, in this case, the correction period for 30 or more days, and the revocation when actions are not taken, and the 3 to 5 is the same situation, and the revocation of the certificate immediately. Next, the product specific. First is the same with the left. 2 is the same with the left, and the 2 who are not exporting goods qualifying rules of origin, which is 6-digit code, revocation of the certificate immediately. And the next is certification of origin. It does not require any specific format, as I said first. The exporter will fill out the origin declaration in a trade document, such as a commercial invoice, write down place, date, and name of such exporter, and the sign on the document. And the contents are as below. Declaration is stated with 22 languages of 27 EU member states, except the Korean language. And the validation period is lasting for 12 months after the day of issuance. Next is for export clearance procedure. First, obtaining qualification for approved exporter, and second, export declaration, and next, submitting documents including invoice, etc. Generally speaking, it is not meaningfully different from the general export clearance procedure in Korea. Qualification for approved exporter is not required when exporting goods under the value of 6,000 euro. The import clearance procedure. Preparation of importer. In this procedure, preparation of importer, certificate of origin shall be provided by the exporter of the FTA partner country, and a thorough verification on origin criterion of the imported goods is essential. And next, application for preferential tariff treatment is two situations. First, before import declaration. In this case, declaration for preference and import declaration and the certificate of origin, but this is when required by customs. Tariff shall be eliminated when customs accept import declaration. And next, within 1 year from the acceptance date, declaration for preference and the claim for rectification, origin certificate of origin, and a copy of certificate of import declaration. In this case, tariff shall be returned when approved by customs. Next is origin verification. Indirect verification method is generally used in principle. However, joint verification is accepted with prior approval of customs authority of the exporting country. And the last of this presentation, 7 consideration points in the company. On application for preferential tariff, there should be documentary evidence of origin required for import declaration. And when required by customs, the company have to submit the documents promptly. And 2, obligation to keep documentary evidence of origin for 5 years from the date of import and export declaration. First, the importer. A copy of certificate of origin, a certificate of import declaration, contracts related to imported transactions, etc. as below. And the second, exporter. A copy of the CO submitted to the importer of the FTA country, and a certificate of export declaration, and certificate of import declaration of the raw materials, and etc. as below. After all, it is important for importer and exporter to keep all documents regarding trade and customs declaration by documents or electronic method. That's all my presentation. And if you have any further and technical questions about Korea customs clearance, please contact me by email as below, and I will answer as soon as possible. Thank you for attention.
Another excellent presentation. Thank you very much indeed, and thank you for keeping to time, Mr. Sun. I compliment our Korean speakers today on their excellent English too.